Hello, glad you could join this new episode of Tech Talk. Today we'll be talking about speakers, Roland. Speaker placement. Do you have any good rules of thumb?
Yeah, I think the very best advice that I could give to someone is to follow your own ears, trust your ears, because you can measure everything backwards and forwards, and you can, of course, try out many rules that are out there. But I think you can get very far if you follow if you trust your ears and just listen carefully. Does it give me an improvement or not? Does it sound better or not? So that's the first piece of advice, trust your ears. The second would be I would always try to retain that stereo triangle in any room with any pair of speaker. Why is that so important? Because that's the way how almost every music was mixed. So one guy in the mixing studio, in the recording studio, sat down and that with a perfect stereo triangle and did all these sound mixing for you. So it is very important that we move as close as possible to that ideal, because that's the way how the music was created or mixed in the first place. And the closer you move towards this perfect stereo triangle, which is in the studio, the better it will sound at home. You could even say that if you recreate the whole setup with the same speaker, with the same distance, with the same, room, then you would have the exact same sound experience like the guy mixing that song.
Yeah.
Of course, that's impossible. But moving closer to that is simply good. So trust your ears, follow that stereo triangle, and then I would always play what I call the yes or no game, and that is simply have the speakers there, sit down somewhere, and then move the speakers a little bit towards you. Is that better or not? Oh, it's a little bit better. Okay, move it closer. Oh, that's better again. Move it closer. No, that doesn't sound better. Okay, back again. And then you do the same, move the speakers closer together, and always listen with the same song, of course, whether there's an improvement or not. So it's trial and error. And then that is, you could say, oh, that's not very scientific. No, but we talk about sound. So you don't have to have a master degree in room acoustics or sound engineering to hear whether something sounds better or not. Of course, it helps to have the right song. So I would always pick a song which is a little bit fuller in the bass and has like a bass melody and not like a bass drum only or some dance track. I would always play something with let's say acoustic bass or like a bass playing and a bass melody and a tune. And that's a little bit repeating itself all the time, because then it's easier to hear a difference, and there's no risk that you only improve it for one certain frequency. So that helps. And don't change the music too much as long as you still find the right placement for the speaker. And yeah, it helps to have a little tape or something on the floor. I would always say start with taping around the speaker. It sounds a little bit nerdy, I know that. So remember to remove the tape when you have friends coming around.
Yeah, for sure.
But it just helps because then you can see where you move the speaker. So you move it out of that rectangle, or you move it in, or you move it in front of it, or half in front of it. You can see what you're doing. And that's important because you have to do the same thing on the left and the right speaker side. And that helps a lot. And believe me, you will hear it. You will hear when it suddenly makes like, oh, that's the best. That's way better than before.
Yeah. Talking about the golden triangle, when you place your speakers, should they face front or should they have a little toe in?
That depends a bit on the speaker, or let's say on the speaker designer, how they created that, how they created the speaker radiation, how it beams sound into the room. Most speakers sound the best with a little bit of toe in. That means it's not facing straight into the room, and it's not facing, or it's not directed at you in a straight line. Something in between. How much? I would not even look at how many degrees. I would, again, trust my own ears, because you will hear it. One will be a little bit too prominent in the upper frequencies. One will sound a little bit muted. You will hear it. And it doesn't matter if that's 5 degrees or 3 or 4 or 10. You will hear it.
What about matching the axis of the speaker with your ears?
That's very important, but luckily most speakers are set because they are designed that way, like a floor stand speaker or a stand on a certain height or size. That's already a given. Again, it's you have to recreate how the speaker was placed when they finished the speaker, when they tuned the speaker. So I wouldn't put it higher or lower or anything. But with most speakers, that's very easy to do.
Yeah. We talked about normal speakers, floor standers or bookshelves on a stand. What about a subwoofer for stereo reproduction or in a home cinema setup? Where do we place the subwoofer?
Yeah, that's not so easy to answer. Well, it is easy to answer, but I come to that in a minute. It's not so easy because we talk about massive sound energy. And in low frequencies, we really talk about sound waves. You could in meters, if you measure the waves, you can really imagine bass like big water waves coming from the speaker. And then you can also imagine what kind of problems they create. Because if you imagine a subwoofer placed somewhere in the room and you understand that the sound wave not only goes to you, but to the wall behind the subwoofer and the wall at the side of the subwoofer, you can already almost see that this will create problems because that wave will go to the back wall. Where does it go? Well, it comes back, but it comes back delayed.
Yeah.
And everything that comes back delayed creates phase effects, canceling out effects, basically. So some bass note will be exaggerated, some bass note will be almost canceled out, and then the same happens again on the side wall. And then something also happens and interacts with the floor, and maybe even with the ceiling. So in the low frequencies, many things can happen. And common thinking, even with subwoofer, is often that, okay, then that means if the wall, if the corner causes trouble, the solution must be that you move the subwoofer as far away from the wall as possible. That's the common thinking. Actually, that's a little bit wrong, because then you delay this reflected wave even further. And you create new problems and different problems and have even more delay. So there is a spot in the room, or actually two spots in the room, where it actually sounds quite good, and that is right in the corner when we talk about the subwoofer. Because right in the corner, the reflectant or the sound wave from the drive unit, from the woofer, and the reflected wave from the wall behind and from the side wall, in the time domain, it's almost one. So the timing, the punch of the low frequency is actually really good. And that helps a lot for the bass performance. Of course, it's a bit too loud because every room emphasizes the bass, but that can be corrected with room correction, a DSP basically. But the timing is better.
Good insight, Roland, because you talked about subwoofers reflecting waves to the back wall, to the side wall, to the ceiling. So that's maybe the main reason why in studios you often see that they position the studio monitors inside the wall to prevent all that and have just a near field monitor setup. So you just receive the direct beam of the speakers with your ears and nothing else.
Exactly. In-wall speakers, you think that, oh, that's a practical thing. No, it's actually also sound-wise, it's really good because you don't have that reflected or delayed reflection. Even if you mount a speaker like a stand mount speaker, you can also mount it in the wall, but it has a certain depth. And even that would create some canceling out effects in the lower mid-range or upper bass. So that's why most or many studios have these on-wall or installed speakers flat with the wall, not because of aesthetic reasons, but because the sound, the time domain is better. And time domain or the effects from that time domain, that means also the frequency response is more even. It's just that some frequencies are also louder, but that can be equalized. So but the time domain is better.
So what about the results you can achieve with, for instance, freestanding speakers or on-wall speakers? Are they the same and with or without any form of correction? What's easier?
Basically, you can do the same with any kind of speaker, but against the wall, no matter which kind of speaker, as I said, the time response is better, period.
But does that just mean that the room correction software doesn't have to work that hard, or do you get better results?
Well, luckily, the algorithm doesn't care whether it has to correct a lot or not. So if you have enough processing power, it does the same thing. You could say so that against the wall, there's more sound energy to be reduced, to be corrected. But in the time domain, there's almost nothing to be corrected. So at the same time, it's easier to do the right thing, because many things are fundamentally right against the wall or for low frequencies in the room corner.
But if you have to weaken the sound energy with an on-wall speaker, that means that in theory you can play a little louder.
You gain headroom.
Yeah,
for sure. You gain headroom, so it's much more efficient. And moving away from the wall, from the corner, that basically, it costs some headroom, because all these effects, all these canceling out effects, they have to kind of be evened out, and that basically costs headroom.
So, lesson learned, folks, for you at home. One lesson, biggest lesson of all: trust and use your ears. So, get to work with the triangle, move your speakers around. Doesn't cost any money, just a little time. And
And don't forget to remove the tape.
Yes. Thank you, Roland. Thank you for watching. See you at the next one.